Hello and welcome to another episode of Aspire, the Ivy Dreams podcast channel where we interview recent graduates and current students of elite American universities. I'm Sarvapriya, your host for today, and I'm the CEO of the Ivy Dream, which is a university admissions consultancy. Our guest today is an undergrad student from Brown University, Elaine Oghoore. She's from Nigeria and she's finishing up her study abroad year at Queen Mary University of London. Thank you so much for joining us, Elaine.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to explore what it was like to have a childhood both in Nigeria and in the US.
I grew up in a bustling and vibrant city, Lagos. And Lagos is mostly known for its rich culture and how fast-paced it is and how dynamic it is. And so that really shaped my perspective on hard work, community, and creativity. And so coming to America was a culture shift for me. It was a culture shock.
And when did you come to America?
So I went to boarding school in Connecticut when I was 9.
Very young.
Yes, and Connecticut is very different from Lagos. Um, and that was something that I really struggled with because now that I'm a lot older, I really thank my parents for sending me to primary school in Lagos because it really built my character and shaped me into the person that I am today. And I think that if I hadn't had that experience before going to boarding school, I would be a completely different person. Um, and I also was I was the only fifth grade boarder at the school that I first attended. And so that was something that I really struggled with because I had no one my age to, talk to. But I really do think that if I had always gone to school in America, that I wouldn't be as strong-willed as I am today.
Oh, that's a very beautiful way to put it. Yeah, and later on you went to Hotchkiss. How was the Hotchkiss experience?
Yeah, so I went to Hotchkiss for ninth through 12th grade. And Hotchkiss to me didn't feel like a lot of change because I also went to middle school like 5 minutes, I think, down the road from Hotchkiss. So it was a very familiar environment. And that was something that I really liked when I was applying to high schools. Hotchkiss was my top choice because it wasn't as big as the other top 10 schools, I would say. The size was good. It was, a close community and there were great faculty. And I would also say that academically, it really prepared me for university, um, and the SATs. And it also offered me a place where I felt like I could grow intellectually. It really offered a safe space for me to kind of explore my interests before going to college. And that's where I kind of solidified my decision to study economics in college. I'd also tried like a computer science class at junior year, and I decided that wasn't for me. And then my senior year, I took honors economics, and my teacher did a really great job of just making the course fun. And so that's when I knew that I would probably end up studying that in college. And now that is my major. I study business economics at Brown.
Yeah, it's usually great teachers, who evoke that kind of interest in a subject that you end up pursuing it later. So yeah, good for you. I want to move on to the first round of applications. I'll start with the SATs. How did you prepare for it? The number of attempts you took and the progress you think you made.
Yeah, so I prepared for the SATs by taking a lot of practice SAT exams. I think that was something, I think that was what helped me the most in getting the score that I did get because I had, already taken the math classes in high school, and the grammar skills is something that you just work on, and the comprehension and reading. the only way that you could really get better in that was to just keep on taking practice exams and doing corrections. And so I just took a bunch of practice exams, and that was kind of really the only way that I really prepped. And I also had a lot of flashcards for vocabulary. I learned a lot of words, and that was something that my tutor really emphasized so that I would have a better understanding going into the exam. And I had three attempts, all in the same year.
Yes, yes. I want to dive into this. Uh, I want to talk about each of your attempts and what you thought made a difference and why you scored what you scored, because there's a great story there for our listeners.
Yeah, of course. So my first attempt, I took it in March, and I got a 1480. I got a 720 in reading and writing and a 760 in math. And I'd always been strong in math, and so I was kind of fine with that 760, and I really wanted to increase my reading and writing score. And for me, I was just overthinking. I'm an overthinker. I overanalyze things a lot, and so I would at the end of completing the reading or the writing section, I would go back and change my answers, and I was second guessing myself, even though the answers were probably right the first time. I just felt like they were wrong. And I did the same thing my second time. I took it again in August. I got a 1490. My math score increased by 10 points, but my reading and writing stayed the same. And this made me very frustrated because I had been studying so much, and it really discouraged me because I was like, I'm putting in all this effort, but I'm not seeing any improvement.
Yeah, that must have been disheartening.
Yeah, it really was like opening the score on the day it came out and seeing that it had only increased by 10 points, even though I had put, so much effort in between, March to August.
Yeah, moreover, the overthinking, kind of makes you feel that you're putting more of yourself into the process. So it's the work is harder, it's more difficult when you're also overthinking at the same time. So what happened between your second attempt and third attempt?
So I would say for the second attempt, I was doing the same thing. I kept second guessing myself, and I also went back to change my answers. But in my third attempt in October of that year as well, I got a 1560. And my reading and writing score was a 780, and my math score was also a 780. And what changed between my second and third attempt was that I decided that I wasn't going to second guess myself. And I also didn't take any practice exams in between August and October because I knew that I was prepared for this exam. And I knew that the only other thing that could be hurting my score was the fact that I kept doubting myself and I wasn't sure of myself. And so, what I did during that time was I, you know, I just gathered up the courage to like actually believe in myself and my abilities.
You let go, that is the hardest thing. We hold on too tightly to things and it hurts it sometimes. So you let go and it worked out pretty well, right?
Yeah, I really did let go. And during that exam, I didn't change any of my answers. Whatever I put down the first time, I stuck with it. And I think that is what helped me because, you know, I knew it was right, but when you start second guessing yourself, you start finding reasons for why it should be wrong. And so I just decided that I wasn't going to think about anything after I put down my answer. I would just move on and kind of not look back. And that was my last attempt, so that was a bold move.
Yeah, it
But
was Elaine.
but yeah.
And the thing about letting go is that you have finally told yourself that you are unafraid of the consequences of whatever happens. So shall we assume that you reached that point where you were not afraid anymore?
Yeah, I wasn't really afraid anymore. And my parents had told me that, if anything, if I didn't do better, like a 1490 was, it was okay. And I always had the route of going test optional. But I knew that I could get a 1500 or better. And so I think the two things I did was I became okay with the 1490 score in case things did go wrong. But I also encouraged myself to believe that I could do better. And that's why letting go was the best option for me.
Yeah, this is a very important lesson for all our listeners who are struggling with test taking. Um, and uh, and kudos to you. You did great, and now you're at Brown. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your extracurriculars. What are the various things that you did at Hotchkiss, and anything for extra credit? How did you go around it? What did you do?
So at Hotchkiss, I was a board member of Investment Club, Females for Finance, and Design Club. And early on, I'd known that finance was something that I want to pursue, even though I really wasn't sure what I wanted to major in college. And so I joined Investment Club from ninth grade, and I'd been a part of Females for Finance my senior year because it was a new club my senior year. And then I had been in Design Club since about my junior year. And being a part of those clubs, being a part of an extracurricular activity after school is nice because you kind of get to nurture your interests outside of academics. And so that was something that I was able to talk about during my Common App application because I was a part of clubs that related to, my career aspirations and kind of like my artistic interests.
So, Elaine, how do you think these extracurricular activities um, shaped you, and how do you think they contributed to your application?
So I think that being a part of Female for Finance and Investment Club definitely gave me some early on career preparation and also set up a platform for me when I was writing my Common App because during your essay, you want to show that you've done research on the school. And so in some questions, they'll ask you, what clubs do you want to be a part of? Or how will you contribute to the community on campus? And so when I was researching the clubs on campus, I would be putting down investment club, finance club at these universities, and that already related to what I was doing. And so I think that really helped me. And then being a part of design club, I would say that, when I go to college, like I want to be a part of fashion club or just similar interests on campus. And design club was more of just a personal, interest for me rather than a professional interest.
So, what you're saying is that being part of clubs which align with what you're pursuing with your major, it kind of gives evidence to the outcome that you're actually interested in this course. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so because when I was putting down clubs on my application, I only put clubs that I held leadership positions in, not just clubs that I was a part of, because it really showed my commitment to the club. And I think that when you're not just,
A member.
even not just a member, but even when you're a leader, you don't want to be a leader of a random club that kind of has nothing to do with your story, who you are as a person, or your interests, or your major, and you're kind of just in it just to be in it, but you really have no interest in it. I personally think that's a waste of time, and so I steered away from doing that when I was in high school because you're juggling so many things, the SATs, applications. You really want to put your energy and time into things that you genuinely have an interest in.
Elaine, let's talk about your Common App essay. What did you write about? How did you go about it?
So I wrote about coming to junior boarding school at the age of 9. And I would say that because I hadn't really explored my feelings towards this topic prior to writing the essay, my essay was basically superficial. And, it's supposed to be a personal essay, and it wasn't really personal at all. I was just talking about it from the surface level, and I didn't really touch on.
The vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I wasn't vulnerable. And it's not that I wasn't willing to be vulnerable. I just had never really spoken about it before. And so I didn't really understand how I felt towards the topic. And so I didn't really think it was a good topic to write about. I think that when you're choosing to write about something, you kind of need to, something that's really personal to you, I think you need to come to terms with the feelings that you have so you're able to properly express it.
So what you're saying is that it should be something that shows your vulnerabilities, and it should be something that you have processed emotionally. Otherwise, even if you're talking about it, you're not really evoking the kind of sentiment that you're hoping to.
Yeah, because even now when I read it, there is like I'm not even evoking any emotion. Like I can imagine someone, in the admissions team reading this, and I'm not really giving them anything. I was kind of just talking, but I wasn't saying anything. I was, yeah, just it's just a bunch of words together, and yeah, but it doesn't evoke any emotion, and I think that was the mistake that I made, because if I had, processed this experience that I had faced, I think I would have been able to, write a better personal statement for sure.
Mhm. Hmm. That's a very good insight, Elaine, for our viewers, because the number one thing that we tell our clients is the application process should be a cathartic process in your life, where you stop and you observe your life, you introspect, you retrospect, and you process certain things, and then you write about them. So this is a great lesson, and I'm glad this is coming out in your story, because this gives us an opportunity to highlight it and the importance. Because this round of applications didn't help you get into an Ivy League. After which you were a transfer student, right, to Brown. So tell me about that transition.
Yeah, so I transferred to Brown after my freshman year, and when you transfer, if correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have to do a personal statement. You only have to do the supplements for the universities.
Yeah, the prompts.
Yeah, yeah, the prompts. And so I love this because it was shorter, just shorter prompts. And I learned from my first mistakes, and I wrote about things that I was able to properly talk about and I was able to be vulnerable about. And so the first Brown prompt was about the open curriculum and how your academic interests excite you, and how you might want to use the open curriculum to pursue topics that you're unfamiliar with. And so I wrote about how the open curriculum would let me explore my major of architecture. So I switched to an architecture major, and at Brown you can't do a minor. And so I wanted to minor in economics but major in architecture. But because I wasn't able to do this, I wrote about how the open curriculum would still basically let me achieve that. And how, I would combine courseworks in urban studies, public policy, and economics to understand the interdisciplinary connections that impact economic growth in urban settings. And so I wanted to be an architecture major with a touch of economics. And the open curriculum I think was the best learning environment for me to pursue this, because I wouldn't have to put a label on economics as my minor, but I would still be able to explore it.
That's a wonderful essay, Elaine. Wonderfully put. About prompt 2, do you want me to read it out?
Yes, please.
Brown's culture fosters a community in which students challenge the ideas of others and have their ideas challenged in return, promoting a deeper and clearer understanding of the complex issues confronting society. This active engagement and dialogue is as present outside the classroom as it is in academic spaces. Tell us about a time you were challenged by a perspective that differed from your own, and how did you respond? So, what did you write here?
So I wrote about an interaction that I had in an economics class. We were talking about the racial wealth gap, and a classmate said that reparations were not necessary because slavery happened ages ago. And I thought that her viewpoint was very challenging for me because I felt that her perspective disregarded racial justice. And so when we broke into smaller groups, I tried to connect race to economics and politics and show how the effects of racial injustice continue to exist and influence countless institutions in America. Um, and my group, they had a lot of opinions. And although we never came to a definite answer or collective viewpoint on reparations, I felt that that was okay because the conversation was honest, complex, and challenging for everyone that was involved. And it forced us to think about the impact of race, not just on history, but on our own perspectives and understandings of the past. And I wrote about how the experience taught me that instead of um allowing frustration, to silence me. I should use a difference of opinion to spark meaningful conversations, even if they are uncomfortable and don't have a clear resolution.
So, what you're saying is that you did not allow their opinion on a topic that was sensitive to you control your emotions, and rather you used rationality, dialogue, and arguments to make your case, which you felt was thought provoking for the entire class. Even if you were not able to change their opinion completely, but you thought that it was thought provoking.
Yeah, and I felt like, I felt like this essay was an accurate portrayal of who I am because I'm someone that acts with logic rather than emotion. And so that's why I was able to write so well about this topic because this is truly how I approach difficult conversations or people who have a different perspective and opinion from me.
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to read the third prompt now. Brown students care deeply about their work and the world around them. Students find contentment, satisfaction, and meaning in daily interactions and major discoveries. Whether big or small, mundane or spectacular, tell us about something that brings you joy. So, what did you write about?
I wrote about something that's always brought me joy. And so I wrote about baking. And yeah, it doesn't seem like something that, should bring the amount of joy that it did bring me. Or it doesn't seem like something that I may have an interest in because a lot of my interests are finance related. But I think it's something that I've always been interested in since a young girl. And I started off my essay by saying, as a young girl, I watched baking shows and I carefully studied how bakers would mount layers of cake on top of one another. And I wrote about how after school I would spend hours in the kitchen making my own masterpieces from brownies to cakes to varieties of cupcake flavors from scratch. And how this brings me joy because it's stress free and I like crafting recipes and making different creations. And then I then moved on to write about how during the pandemic, I baked every day because of how therapeutic it was, and how my family and friends encouraged me to start my business and how I should sell these desserts. And so I started an online baking company in Nigeria with my sister. And we started off with banana bread because it was a recipe that I created. And then we moved on to expand the menu. And I basically ended it by saying that, few things bring me greater joy than baking because the kitchen is where I'm most creative and where I find a lot of happiness. And that I hope that others taste that joy in my desserts.
How beautiful, how beautiful. Okay, I'm going to move on to the fourth prompt.
Do you want me to read that one?
Yeah, sure, please go.
And so the fourth prompt for the Brown supplements is the personal statement helps colleges get to know you better as a person and a student. Please provide a statement discussing your educational path. How does continuing your education at a new institution help you achieve your future goals? I wrote about how I moved to the US from Nigeria and I found a home in the town of Lakeville, Connecticut, where I attended boarding school, and how I felt that I had outgrown that type of intimate setting and I was now seeking a larger and more diverse community. And so I wrote that at Brown, I'm looking forward to being a part of, a more international community and one where I can better connect with peers from a variety of backgrounds. And I also wrote about how in addition to racial and socioeconomic diversity, I'm also looking for a school that provides academic opportunities, such as the open curriculum, and how my academic interests have expanded from just economics to combining architecture with urban studies and economics.
Mm. So, for your future goals, did you specifically mention what is it that you want to do?
No, I actually didn't touch on what I want to pursue for my career.
Okay. And how did you wrap it up?
Oh, I wrapped it up by saying that being a Brown student would let me combine my interest of architecture with urban studies and economics, which is something that I wouldn't really be able to do at other schools that don't have an open curriculum system.
Oh, wonderful. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, no wonder you got in.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now you're at Brown. How has your experience been as a international student from Nigeria? The campus life, the academics, everything. Tell me.
Yeah, so I think that international students will thrive at Brown because of the international community and how diverse the community is. The diversity is something that I noticed the moment I stepped onto campus. And I think that that is what makes me like Brown so much. And in terms of academics, you know, I'm genuinely interested in the classes that I'm taking. And I've been able to find clubs that also align with my interest. I'm a part of investment club, private equity club, Fashion at Brown, and the Nigerian Students Association. And so those are things that give me the opportunity to kind of have career preparation and to nurture my artistic interests, since that's not something that I will pursue as a career, and also be able to connect with people from back home. And I think that everyone is really and truly just really nice. And, you know,
Helpful.
yeah, yeah. And so I think that if that's the type of community you're looking for, Brown is definitely the school for you. And that was the type of community I was looking for. And so that's why I chose Brown.
Sounds like a very nurturing environment for a young person.
It definitely is.
I'm so happy for you, Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Elaine, currently you're studying abroad at Queen Mary. This is your you're abroad from Brown. What has your experience been, and when do you go back?
Yeah, so I go back in June. The program ends in June. And my experience, I would say, has been great. I mean, because I I've been in the American educational system since I was 9. I've always known that study abroad is something that I want to pursue when I get to university. And I felt like this was the best time for me to go so I could spend my senior year on campus. And it's really i- it's it's relaxing, and it's kind of nice to be in London and to explore new things. Um, and I would recommend study abroad to anyone, even if it's just a semester. I think it's something that everyone should get to experience, being in a new environment, being in a new educational system, and just getting to meet new people.
Maybe you can pursue your masters in the UK.
I do like the educational system in the US better. Because here it's like 3 years and it's not rigorous. I think the US is more um it's just more, challenging, like intellectually, and I think I need that. They have too much free time in the UK, so I could never really go here actually. They don't, because in the US, you have everything is graded. Here, like, I'm taking a course where like 100% of my grade is my final. And a lot of courses like that throughout your 3 years will be like that. Opposed to the US where you have an assignment every week that's due that will be graded and everything counts up towards your final grade. So you can't really ever slack off. But here, like some people just won't even go to class towards until the end of the semester, and then they do well on their final essay or final exam, and it's like they didn't really learn anything.
Because they're not consistent with their education.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's why, yeah, that's why the UK has been kind of relaxing for me because it's not as mentally challenging as Brown. But I would say that I'm not really missing the US. I do miss home, Nigeria, but I was there for so long that I kind of needed this break. But I'm looking forward to going back to Brown though.
Hmm. It sounds like at this point, Brown University and the US are not synonymous to you anymore. Okay. I want to talk about this mentorship program that you're a part of. It's called Career SEO. Could you share your experience and could you tell our audience what it is about?
So I'm a part of SEO, which stands for Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, and I'm a part of their alternative investments and investment banking track. And so what I do is that I receive coaching and online instruction to achieve targeted interview, technical, and professional development goals. And I'm also basically learning business fundamentals so that I can have successful internships. And I'm also receiving industry specific training. So for me, that would be investment banking towards developing technical skills and institutional knowledge. And so being a part of SEO means that you receive a mentor that you have access to receiving that support towards the recruitment process. And so that for me has been very helpful because I'm basically talking to someone that has a lot of experience in the field that I want to go into. And so when I have questions or when I'm having some doubt about my strengths, I'm able to have someone reiterating the fact that I'm, prepared for this interview or I'm a good candidate for this job position.
Yeah, they keep you motivated, but do they also help you with the technical stuff?
Yeah, so we have access to Wall Street prep courses and we have access to this for free. And so that's where we are able to receive technical training.
Oh, wonderful. Have you been interviewing lately for internships? Has this program helped you?
Yes, it's helped me a lot because we get to have mock interviews. You can pretty much sign up for one whenever you want, and you can sign up for as many as you want. And so I have been having interviews, and I'm just basically hearing myself, and even my higher views. I'm just more confident in myself in my answers. Like I'm able to answer questions that I didn't even prepare for, just because when you're doing this mock interviews with SEO, they kind of prepare you for anything that could possibly be thrown at you.
So they prepare you for surprises.
Yes, I recently had a surprise hire review. None of the questions that came up were questions that I studied for, but I was able to think about questions that were similar to that one, and I still felt very confident in my answer, even though I hadn't prepared for any of those questions.
Sounds like a very, very useful program to be a part of.
Yes, it is. I tell all my friends about it.
Well, it sounds like, from the clubs you were a part of, at Hotchkiss to your major at Brown to this program that you're a part of, sounds like you want to get into investment banking. Is that true?
Yes, that is the career I want to go into after graduation.
Wonderful. So, what intrigues you about IB? What is it that you like about the job?
So my forte has always been math. And so when I was considering a career, I wanted something that was more technical. And so that's what intrigues me about investment banking. I like to be mentally challenged, and I know that IB will do that for me. And I do like to be stressed a bit. I like to have a routine, and I feel like I work well in those, high stress environments. I don't know why, but it's just an environment that I work well in, and it kind of gives me motivated and I'm able to push myself. I like it when I can push myself, and I don't like being too relaxed. I don't like things that are easy. And so I think that's why when I was choosing a career, I knew that IB would be the perfect fit for me.
So, is it possible that maybe, in your late 50s or 60s, I'd find that you have opened your, bakery shop or business? Because maybe then you'll want to, unwind and slow down, perhaps.
Yes, you'll probably find that I've opened a baking shop.
Kind of, makes sense because when you're young, you want to be fast and you want to do a lot of things and you want to explore a lot of options. You want to be under stress and challenge yourself. But, since baking has been therapeutic to you, when you want to slow down and when you want to relax, I think that is something you can just, take comfort in and stay happy.
Yeah, I think that is true because um being in a high stress environment may not always be long term. And so definitely wanting to unwind and, open my own little bakery, I think will be the perfect thing for me to do.
Oh, how lovely. This was such a I'm just going to take a moment to just, be happy for you here in this moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, this is the last question. And I'm sure you must have, when you listen to the other episodes, you must have found that this is a question we ask all our guests. Here it goes. What does success mean to you?
So, I believe that true success is found in genuine happiness. I genuinely believe that no matter how high you climb the corporate ladder or how many achievements or how many accomplishments you achieve, if you're not waking up every morning feeling light, happy and grateful for life, you know, I would have to ask like can you truly consider yourself successful? Because personally, none of it really matters unless you're happy and you're pursuing achievements that truly resonate with you and make you happy. And so I think that's what success means to me.
Beautiful answer, Elaine. Yeah. You don't want to be part of a race where you're um, beating yourself up every morning and just going to a job that you don't like. So
Yeah, not at all.
yeah, so happiness is at the core of what success means to you.
Yeah, to me they go hand in hand.
Hmm. I'm sure, Elaine, you'll have a successful life and a very, very happy one. And it was an absolute pleasure talking to you today. And I'm sure that there are a lot of takeaways for our audience from this episode because we deep dive into, all the prompts for the Brown transfer application. We also talked about the mistakes you'd made the first time around, your tests, everything. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of course, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.